Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Chaotic Crossover. My name is Will.
And I'm AJ. What is up, my
Hey,
dude?
here's the thing, everybody. This week, whenever you're watching, we thought to ourselves, what do we want to do? Do we want to do another review? Do we want to discuss some kind of brand new topic that's never been aired before? And what we decided was, what the hell, man? We're just going to have one big yap session about something that we both love, Star Wars.
We both love and hate. So yeah, I think the main thing that we wanted to bring up, and you'll see it in the title of this video, is over the last I would say 20 to 30 years or so, there's just been this stigma against being a Star Wars fan specifically. There's a lot of things where you're like, oh man, those Star Wars fans, they suck, they're bad. Because if you look at it, and I've seen this before, this exact phrase before, is no one hates Star Wars more than a Star Wars fan. Which is just, it's an oxymoron. It doesn't make sense. But there's a lot of things that people can be Star Wars fans about. It's kind of become its own vernacular in a way of just people shitting on things. And I think there's a lot of franchises nowadays that they're getting to that point where there are people that grew up with them as children, and now that they're adults, they just shit on it because as people age, they just get older and crankier, I guess, and they just kind of start to hate the things they love for some reason. We'll bring it back to Star Wars in a second, but I've been noticing that with the MCU lately. I grew up with the MCU. That was a lot of my childhood, middle school, high school years, was the Marvel movies and stuff. And now that I'm an adult, everyone's really hating on the Marvel movies every step of the way. And it's the diehard fans are like, oh, it'll never be as good as it used to be. And I'm like, you're not really giving it a chance, because there's some great gems in the last few years that have been awesome. Has it been consistent? No. Was it ever consistent? I would also say no, it wasn't. So I don't know. And Star Wars is much the same way. People that grew up with the originals hated the prequels. Now that the prequel people that grew up from children, now they love the prequels and everything Clone Wars did for them, and now the sequel trilogy is bad, which maybe because people said that about the prequel trilogy is it was always bad, but now people love it. Maybe in 10 years the sequel trilogy will be beloved for some reason. It's possible. Personally, I think that it won't be, based off what it is.
I think it's become one of those things that most people have just agreed it's flawed, like most of Star Wars.
Yeah.
But
all of Star Wars is flawed. The original movie is perfect, but
yeah. But if you listen, this is just we are going to talk about Star Wars. We're going to talk about everything about Star Wars. If you can't recognize the flaws in the world of Star Wars and be able to make fun of them, you have lost already. You have lost, Your Highness. There is no way that you can actually say you're a fan if you do not think looking at a green little freak puppet is the best part of your day. You can't be like, oh, the Force is many things, without being, look at all this weird ass shit going on. There's a robot dad. There is ghost uncles. There are Disney princesses. And then on top of all of that, just galactic terrorism every other day of the week.
Right. And there's so much stuff to love and hate about it. But I think that, I don't know, my relationship with it is there are things I don't like, but overall it still is an enjoyable experience. We talked about this when we reviewed The Acolyte. Is it a perfect series? No. Did we have gripes with it? Absolutely. There were absolutely things we pointed out. Overall, was I having fun watching it and seeing all the cool lightsaber battles? Yeah. Was it cool? I don't know. So I guess well, I'll start with this, Will. What do you think? What is Star Wars at its core? Star Wars, the genre, the whatever you want to call it. Because, it started a whole movement of filmography.
Well, oh fuck, you're really going to be like, what's it all for?
I
Okay,
guess
so
I
there are
guess
two
I'll frame
answers.
it like
There
this:
are no,
in
no.
universe, what is Star Wars?
Okay, so in universe, if we look at the original trilogy, it is just Excalibur. It is just King Arthur. It's literally, you are meant to believe that Luke Skywalker comes across a random wizard who tells him about his destiny. He's meant to inherit this great line to become a knight and fight a dark lord, and he learns he has a secret sister. There's a weird relationship there. They gather up a knight of the round table, like they are off, and they vanquish everything at the end of the day. And honestly, that's what Star Wars is. It's fantasy in space. It is about the hero's journey. It's about, maidens and demons and dark versus light. It's about how good does ultimately conquer all, even though it might take a bit more time than we would have needed. But there's always hope. That is the idea of Star Wars. There is
A
always,
new
well, listen, I feel like they should change that at this point to another hope, because there's so many new hopes. Listen, everyone gets their hopes up in Star Wars. So I would say, you know, rebellions are built on hope, and there are many rebellions in Star Wars. At this point, it should just be Star Wars, a hope.
Yeah, you brought up. You mentioned something that like I wanted to say too, because I completely agree with it. You said like Star Wars is fantasy in space, and I
Yes.
want to like people talk about Star Wars like redefine like bringing the sci-fi genre into a new generation, like really like kickstarting all that stuff. I completely agree. It is a seller. I would argue that Star Wars is not a sci-fi. People compare it to Star Trek all the time. It's not science fiction, in my opinion. It's just, it is fantasy with sci-fi colors. Like they like painted it sci-fi, but it really is just Star Wars. Like if you could tell the exact same story with horses and regular swords and different kinds of magic, would it be the same thing? No, it would. But it would. That's what it is. Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, look to the prequels and tell me that is not just a Shakespearean tragedy. That is straight up just like a medieval tragedy about the rounds of the night, the Knights of the Round Table. I got that mixed up. But the Knights of the rounds of the Knights. The Knights of the Round Table just literally crumbling. Like you have a chosen one, and it's a fall from grace. But the thing is, because by the time that came out, that this guy is going to destroy the galaxy one way or another. So literally, you're watching them hope against hope against hope that they can stop something that's already set in motion. Like it already happened, and it will happen.
Yeah. And yeah, if you watch the Clone Wars series and stuff, like they really delve into more of like what the Force is and like this magical power, because it's not like a weird science fiction thing. It's not like biological. Like, yeah, it's like midichlorians, and you can argue that that's like a biological thing and stuff. But like overall, it's like no, there's like a magic thing. There's some sort of like god being that is the Force, whether or not you want to call it a god or anything. I mean, the Han Solo references hell, and Anakin references angels and stuff. Like it's religion. It's not like sci-fi. And if you listen to some like George Lucas videos, like people are always like, there's no fire in space. You can't have fire in space. And George Lucas is like, yeah, but I wanted to do that, and I just decided that that's how the rules of Star Wars works, because I don't care about all of the science rules. I don't care that every planet has only one biome. Like,
right. George Lucas has tried to tell us from the beginning, get bent. It's my movie. I funded it, and I'm going to keep funding it until Disney buys it out, which, by the way, is right to do.
It's a movie for, what is it, 12-year-olds or whatever he says?
Yeah, he said it's a movie for 12-year-olds. If you're wondering about why there's fire in space, get bent. Like, I saw that as, like, on the Critical Drinker. I'm gonna totally, like, attack people now. This is gonna be the beef. But, no, literally, Critical Drinker, who's basically like a nostalgia critic, like ripoff, was just like, hey, it's so stupid that in space there's fire. There's always been fire. There's also been sound. You know, there's also been the ability to lift things with your mind. It's not supposed to be real. There's also a little freak who speaks in backwards riddles. Like
Right.
it's not supposed to make sense.
Like that's if you think about it, like Yoda came from another species from some world. We George Lucas has said that we're not allowed to know the name of the species. That was like one of his things, which is, in my opinion, stupid.
It's
But
whatever.
like he learns English as probably a second language, and for some reason, in his 900 years of being alive, he doesn't learn how to speak it correctly.
Yeah, like dude, that's literally just Star Wars at its core. It's just like it's all fucked up. Now you tell me what it means. You know what? Like it's not supposed to make sense. Like I would submit Jar Jar Binks, Exhibit A. How the hell can you explain to me what his purpose in the universe is, except for he's an idiot who's meant to get manipulated? Like there is no purpose. Like
Well, I
there
think
is no reason why, except unless you're the bad guys. There is no greater plan.
and it's also like, there's the whole Darth Jar Jar argument, which maybe was true at one point. I buy into it enough that I think it could have been something that they thought of. Obviously, they didn't go through with it. But at its core, Jar Jar is there for me being for watching the movies and giggling my ass off
Oh yeah,
because his tongue got stuck in the pod racer beam. Like,
yeah. It's literally that. The whole idea of him is frog bunny talk funny. Like this guy is a weirdo who speaks weird. Have fun.
yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I loved, like, the Phantom Menace came out the year I was born. I remember seeing Jar Jar and thinking he was hilarious. I rewatched the Phantom Menace like a couple of years ago now that I'm like fully grown ass adult, and I was like, oh, I get why he's annoying to people. I get it. And even my parents were like, yeah, we didn't say anything because we didn't want to ruin your fun as a kid, but we always found him annoying. And I was like, wait, really? They're like, yeah, but we're not gonna, ruin your idea of this movie because you obviously thought it was funny and liked it. We wanted to watch it for you.
Yeah.
We don't want to criticize it because Jar Jar is admittedly annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
But
That's just how it is, and that's Star Wars. I do want to ask you, since we're just in this bullshit stage, we could talk some philosophy on Star Wars and things like that.
whatever you want.
Who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Who's my favorite Star Wars character? So
I should say for right now, I'll give you two choices because we'll do the main canon right now, and then we'll go back to Legends if you want to pull anything from there.
okay, I know who my favorite character is. I do, but I want to say, okay, so Luke Skywalker is my favorite character.
Okay.
Basic, but I always loved, especially as a kid, just like that basic hero of like him being like the main guy, and he's like the first guy to get a lightsaber in the movies, at least the way they came out. Like, it's awesome. That guy's awesome. I hate what they did with him in the sequel, in The Last Jedi. I hate that, and I disagree with that portrayal.
Okay.
But I think it's awesome. And Mark Hamill is like, just seems like a phenomenal person, in general, like the actor, and you get to see he probably has the most growth and change of a character in all of Star Wars. I like, people can argue Anakin Skywalker. I mean, Anakin Skywalker was an angry kid who turned into an angry teenager, who turned into an angry adult, who turned into an angry robot. Like,
yeah, to be fair, Yoda did straight up just paint what picture was going to be Anakin's life as soon as he met him. But I agree that although he did have changes, it was all negative change. There wasn't any fluxes, But I see what you're saying. Luke makes the most change, has the biggest arc because he makes the wrong decision sometimes, but then He learns from them. Yeah.
No, but like you watch him in A New Hope, and I never found him particularly like whiny and annoying. I know that's like a thing that people thought about him, like, oh, I never really found him annoying. Even watching them nowadays, I think it's great. But yeah, like he starts out this teenager who just wants to get out into the world, and like do stuff. And the deleted scene with like him and like Biggs or whatever is, I watched that for the first time recently, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. You see him like really he has that like want for adventure, but then he does the hero's journey, like refuses the call, and then his aunt and uncle dies, and like if you look at the expression on his face, like Mark Hamill, the way he acts is looking at the destruction, you see like a change of him like get more serious, but he's still like the rest of the movie, he becomes like a man and stuff, and he's still bad at it. He's still bad, like he's still bad at being a Jedi. And then in The Empire Strikes Back, you see him like he's a better Jedi than he was in number 4. He actually uses the lightsaber now. It's all of a sudden telekinesis is a thing that we didn't know was a thing before. We see that. We see him fight Darth Vader. We see him learn a shocking truth about Darth Vader and lose his hand. And then we see him show up in Return of the Jedi as an entirely new guy. Like this Zen person who's like a fully
yoga
blown Jedi. Even though he didn't finish his training with either Obi-Wan or Yoda, he somehow pursued his training and became this fully fleshed out character that had an arc and was always committed to the light side. Even in that one moment he like slipped up at the end of the movie where he starts like wailing into Darth Vader, he still backs out of it and is like, no, I have my morals and the way I think about things, and I agree with the Jedi code. And he goes through this whole thing, and I don't know, man, he's just cool. He's just a cool guy. Like, I don't know. I always loved him. I always, like, as a kid was like, oh man, we're gonna play Star Wars. All my friends were like, I want to be Anakin Skywalker. He's the coolest. And I'm like, Anakin Skywalker is evil and he's gross.
He's icky.
And I was like, I want to be Luke. And then like one of my cousins was like, oh, I'll be Obi-Wan. And I was like, great, Obi-Wan's cool. I'm gonna be Luke.
Yeah, and then you guys were homies. But I like what you say there. Star Wars, I think Star Wars, at least the original trilogy, is certainly on kind of what you said about what it is to become a man. Like to truly, because you are lifted up by your elders, you follow what they say, you try to develop your own opinions. And then when you realize you kind of fall flat on your face, you have to pull back and realize, where did you go wrong? What was I taught? What can I learn from these experiences to fully realize myself and to really make myself my own man? Because in New Hope, he's a boy. In The Empire Strikes Back, he's a man. He's a young man who is struggling to make some decisions. And he's trying to follow the instructions.
Mentors telling him how to do stuff. Yeah.
Right. And he's trying to take the advice, but also figure out his own opinions. By Return of the Jedi, he is his own man because he realizes that there's value in realizing the truth, but also realizing that not everything is so cut and dry. Because he realizes, oh, this is why Ben lied to me. This is why my father turned. And this is why he can be brought back, because no one's ever really gone. So I do like seeing all of that. And I agree. The sequel trilogy did have some struggles when it came to that, which we don't have to get into. I feel like that's its own episode. Oh, dude, he's freaking out. He's about to Hulk out. For our audio listeners, AJ's about to freak out just by hearing the word sequel trilogy.
It's just The Last Jedi. That's the only one. Force Awakens, I think it's not great. I won't get into all my opinions. Force Awakens is not great, but it's fine. Like, I remember saying it, I was like, this is fun. This is great. And I truly believe that The Rise of Skywalker did its best. Was it good? No. But did it do its best based off of what they were given with number 8, all the setup, all that setup? It did its best. But anyway, that might be a later topic.
Yeah.
So then, well, who's your favorite character? I think I know who it is, but go for it.
I might surprise you on this.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of talked about Luke and kind of how he learned to become a man. Um, honestly, it changes as I get older, but
Oh, sure.
currently, I think just from a character perspective, Anakin Skywalker might be my favorite character.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Obi-Wan because he's my second favorite, and I know you like Obi-Wan too. But
Yeah,
Anakin,
yeah. So I love Obi-Wan, but I think the idea of Anakin and why it's so amazing to me is one, we literally see his entire life. Like if you map everything out, even though you do not accept or, appreciate why he did the things he did, you can at least understand it. And also I think I would hate to say it. I think the fact that we understand Anakin's psychology so well, like young boy born into a very horrible lifestyle of a slave
yeah,
on Tatooine, like being going through that and then being taken from his mother at a very young age, pushed into an ideology with the wrong guy because they got the wrong guy. The wrong guy died. Uh,
Duel of the Fates. I
yeah, the
think it's
whole
said by George Lucas is like it's a duel to see who Anakin's master will be, and I think Obi-Wan did a good job in general. Like
oh
he
yeah,
did his best. Um,
right. But that is the thing that at the end of the day, it has been talked about a ton of times, but is the whole idea of Anakin needed a father, not a brother. And although Obi-Wan was able to be fatherly, it was more kind of like the big brother and the outsiders. He was always
yeah,
trying to get him on the right track, but he never really knew how to approach it correctly. But
right.
you know, Anakin had to adhere to something um, that he was not emotionally prepared for and didn't necessarily have the tools to succeed. Especially because half the council fucking hated his ass day one. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
just Mace Windu giving him a shit time, about to pull
Was
a full metal jacket, just get some soap bars and just hit him while he's sleeping.
was anyone on the council like nice to him?
I feel like later on Yoda was. Like
Later
once
on,
once
Yoda
he
was.
was, but none of them wanted him at first, at all, except for Qui-Gon, who believed and believed that if he was given the proper guidance, given the love and care that he needed, that there could be truly promise in him, the ability to bring balance to the Force, which ultimately he did do. He did
Yeah.
bring balance to the Force. It just came in a very strange way. But again, to keep me rolling on this so I don't get stuck on any one thing, Anakin Skywalker is a doomed hero who ultimately is redeemed by love. He is it the Jedi always talked about it was love that would, tear a person apart. It was attachment. But at the end of the day, he's saved
By
by
that attachment. Yeah.
by that willingness to love, to take someone in, which was his wife, Padme. And even though it was his downfall, it was also his basically, his
Redemption.
save. Yeah, it was his saving grace, because the product of that love came back for him and said, "I believe that you can come back. It's never too late." But as we see through the Clone Wars, he is a person who is fearful, and it leads to anger, and it leads to hate, and it
Yeah.
leads to suffering. Dude was brought up in the hardest time in the galaxy. Whole galactic war was breaking out. Basically any pent up aggression he had, he could just dish out at any given moment on battle droids or literally anybody. Like you can see there's little points
Oh
where I'm
yeah.
like, there's this kind of psychology with Anakin where he is not a cold-blooded killer, but he will do whatever it takes to defend the people he loves. Whether
Yes.
that's Obi-Wan or Ahsoka or Padme, like whoever is in his gang, he will kill for. Like that is
Yeah.
100%. And to
Yeah.
kind of see that develop and how he keeps making little compromises. That's the thing. He keeps making little compromises. And I think that's the most human thing about him, is that we are not always going to make the right decision, or at least what people would say is the right decision in our life. We do what we think is right for us, and we will change our morality sometimes on a daily basis and try to justify it. And he's just kind of moving. He's like, well, it's okay because this is for me and this is for the people I love, and I'm doing this to protect this person. And slowly but surely, that gets him trapped in the clutches of Palpatine,
Right.
and gets him to commit the big evil of the Jedi Purge. And listen,
Yeah,
buddy,
it's hard
nobody
to defend him killing the younglings.
Yeah, that one was definitely, because that's why I say he's my favorite character. I don't love everything he did. I'm not like a fan of his work. You know,
Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?
yeah, just the kids stutter stepping back. But yeah, it's sort of just the fall and kind of again, it's the doomed hero feel of like, even at the end of the day, as much as they try, even in Revenge of the Sith, as much as they're trying to end this war, he's just getting played every single time, and he's getting closer and closer to becoming Darth Vader. And yeah, I think I like that because it's so sad, but it also is like, well, the one thing that turned him is the one thing that's going to bring him back and ultimately save the galaxy. And also, if you think about it, Darth Vader did bring balance to the Force. But when you look at the Sith, not a lot of Sith. When you look at the Jedi, too many Jedi.
Yeah, no, that's something I was going to say. Also, tangent, we'll come back, we'll circle back. You ever think about how, like, in a Return of the Jedi, they were just kind of like, and Leia's also related, so that we can get rid of the love triangle between Luke and her or whatever. But you never see Leia interact with Vader except for in the fourth, in the New Hope, which they didn't know.
Right.
Like,
just at that point where it's like Vader's like, hey, I bet it's kind of fucked up what just happened now. How
like
you doing?
You kept bringing up how, like, yeah, it's always that, like, love, what he made with his wife, like Luke, that, like, brings him back to the light side. But, like, Leia was a part of that, but we never explored that relationship.
Oh no, Leia didn't give a fuck.
She didn't contribute anything to his turning. But
yeah, to be fair, Leia, I doubt, would have been ready to be like, you know what? He kind of killed my entire, like, group of people that I represented, so I think I'm just gonna dip.
But yeah, he really did bring balance to the Force, because there were a lot of Jedi, and the rule of two, only two Sith. I'm going to, for a second, thought process, we're gonna ignore everything but the main movies. Ignore everything but the movies, so like Clone Wars, because let's say, like, all the Clone Wars, they didn't exist. Whatever. I know they do in canon and stuff, but it just introduces a lot of complications to this. So there's a lot of Jedi. He kills all of the Jedi except for two. And there's two Sith. So Obi-Wan and Yoda are the only ones left living because he kills all the other ones. So then we have 2 versus 2.
Yep.
We have 2 versus 2. And yes, the reason I'm ignoring it is because we also have, like, Ahsoka and, like, Ezra in there, and Kanan, Jarrett, and Cal Kestis. We have, like, a bunch of other people, but for our purposes, like, he kills everyone. There's 2 Sith. He kills one of the Sith, and then he becomes that Sith to make it 2-2. In number 4, A New Hope, Luke starts his journey to become a Jedi, which means now there's 3 Jedi and 2 Sith.
Got to get rid of one.
That movie kills Obi-Wan, making it 2-2 again.
Yeah.
Then, in Return of the Jedi, that's the next one. In the Return of the Jedi, Yoda dies of old age, making it 1-2, and then Darth Vader kills Palpatine, making it 1-1. So he kills, like, a bunch of people to make it so that there's always the same amount, ignoring the extra characters that were introduced later. So 1-1, and then he dies of old age or dies of overexertion, so that kind of unbalances it again.
Yeah,
But-
he dies of shock therapy.
Right, but he doesn't do that on purpose. So like he kills a bunch of Jedi to make it 2-2, get another Jedi, kills a different Jedi, Jedi dies, kills a different Sith, balancing it the whole way.
Yeah.
Like he really does bring balance to the Force the entire time.
Yeah, and then Luke is the last one, and then maybe the balance is then just maybe Leia was a dick for like a couple years. That was just like the light and dark, just a sibling rivalry.
I mean, you see a flashback with them in Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker?
Yes, Rise of Skywalker, yes, where they're training.
I was like Return of the Skywalker. I was like, no, that's wrong. Yeah, you see
the
a training
Phantom
montage,
Skywalker, yeah.
and she's like obviously like Luke. You got the nice like consular. He's green lightsaber, very calm, and Leia's just like super aggressive, and you're like, all right, okay.
Yeah, to be fair, she was the more aggressive one. She was definitely her father's daughter.
Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?
Damn.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, we're gonna get you out of here, Leia. Leia, we're gonna save you. And she goes, give me that fucking gun, and starts gunning people down. Luke's like, okay, yeah, I'm a kid and I just walked into this, and you are the exact same age as me, which is weird. Man, we were born on the same day. That's super weird.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I honestly that's a big tangent, but I honestly the older I get, the more I understand at least Anakin, because he makes a lot of bad decisions, but I'm also like, you know what? From the background, I get it in some ways, up to a point.
Right. Like,
and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful story.
It is. And it is a very like Shakespearean Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
In a way. And then you get to see the fall. And then in the original trilogy, you get to see the return to form. You get to see the redemption arc and all that kind of stuff, and how the galaxy starts to heal itself. And then in number 7, they decided that the galaxy didn't heal itself at all, and that they kind of undid everything the original trilogy did. But whatever.
Yeah, we don't talk about this.
But yeah, I mean, and as we were talking about earlier, like there's problems in Star Wars. Like the dialogue was never amazing. It's especially pretty bad in the prequel trilogy. But it's fine. Like that's not why we're watching Star Wars. We don't watch Star Wars for those epic hits.
Yes.
Like only one Star Wars quote that everyone like agrees is awesome, and that
do or do not. There is no try.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say no. I am your father.
Oh, okay. And also,
yeah. Don't never forget the we.
Never forget the fact that Darth Vader, when he jumps, he like is just Superman flying through the air and just descending so slow.
And yeah, and every time he jumps, he gets closer to the light side of the Force again.
Because he feels like a kid again. He's like, this is pod racing.
This is pod racing.
This is totally wizard. I'm bringing it back. But no, that's our favorite characters. We did talk about how, yes, we talk about the movies, but I think the fact Star Wars has lasted so long because it outlives the movies, because there's so many different things that people can associate. There's the video games, there's the novels, the comics, the TV shows, the action figures, like all kinds of stuff, role-playing games. There's all kinds of things that people attach to. It's what they were able to make after the movies were done. Like everyone talks about Thrawn nowadays. Thrawn was made in like the fucking 90s. Okay, yeah. Like that's not even a part of any of the movie series. Like he is a character made in a novel by Timothy Zahn, and he lasted 30 years, and people still talk about him. Like, or like even like in the Old Republic. The Old Republic was a video game initiative. Like that was outlived a ton, and it still is an MMO RPG online. But there's so many different characters. So many people talk about Revan, for example. Like Revan is such like a main character for them. I am reading his book right now, and it's fucking amazing. Like, because in all this time, Lucas created something that would outlast him, something that other people could use and elaborate on. Well, what does the light side mean? What does the dark side mean? What is it like to live in this world? And what are all the different eras? Because people create Star Wars at any given fucking point. Like, it's not just the Skywalker saga at a
It's
certain
just
point.
a long time ago. They don't say 1,000 years ago. They just say no, a long time ago. And you could that is a vague phrasing. You can go wherever you want in that world. And even just mention this briefly, the impact outside of the Star Wars universe too is just the impact on our culture as a whole and everything that we've done after that. Star Wars is one of the most, probably, I would argue, the most influential piece of film ever. Like, yeah, there's arguments. I'm sure film nerds can top me with, like, I don't know, Gone to the Wind or something, but like,
Yeah, Wizard of Oz, why not? But
Wizard of Oz is a big one. Yeah,
yeah, but it kind of revolutionized modern cinema. You know,
but
like
yeah,
it.
but yeah, I do want to hop into what your point of, like, all these different, like, smaller stories that are still just as interesting. Like, you get to see just as cool stuff. The concept of droids and kind of going into, like, the dark side and light side of the Force and seeing the different interpretations in universe. I mean, if you look at our universe and our religions, you see a lot of different interpretations of the same thing, meaning different things to different people, and you get to explore that through the lens of space,
Yeah.
lasers, and you get to see, oh, people, there is the Force around, and we have not yet established, like, what is the right way to do the Force, because there's so many problems with, like, the Jedi as a concept. There's obviously problems with the Sith as a concept.
Yeah.
There's different moralities. There's different. I mean, in our life, we have, like, different kinds of philosophy as well. There's all sorts of different ways to interpret how to do it. If you were in the universe, and you had Force powers, what do you think would be the right way to do things? You probably have a different interpretation than me. One of our viewers that we'll eventually get will have a different interpretation than either of us.
Yeah.
I don't know, but what is, like, your talk about Revan a little bit, and if you want to expand on that more, that's great. But what's, like, one of your favorite, like, external, non-mainstream Star Wars things?
Yeah. So I do want to say, recently, one of the most fascinating things to me is the Old Republic.
Mm.
And basically, the Old Republic is probably one of the longest running initiatives in Star Wars because technically it's still running today.
Yeah.
Even with all of the new initiatives, even though some of it is technically Legends, the video game, if I'm aware, like the online, like, multiplayer is still going. So it's
I believe so.
So it's still, like, running and the servers are up. So it's technically still around. But the thing I love about it is that it adds more to that fantasy aspect. It's the Old Republic. There's still sci-fi going on, but it's kind of more like, this is a true war. There are hundreds of Jedi. There are hundreds of Sith. They're all around, and there's so many adventures. And the crazy thing is, none of them have to do with your favorite character or my favorite character.
They're
They
not
don't
going
have
to ruin anything.
Yeah, there's no.
Both our favorite characters are Skywalkers. They don't exist yet.
Yeah, there's nothing in there. One of my favorite characters, for example, in the Old Republic is a character named Zane Carrick, who is just literally, he is the worst. And I don't mean like he's a bad guy. I just mean he is a Jedi. He's not even a Jedi. He's a Padawan learner who sucks. He has what is known as a moderate skill in the Force. Like, literally, one of his masters at one point says that he is an example that the Force has a sense of humor, because this guy technically has the Force, but he's kind of a dipshit. He's not the smartest. He's not the brightest. He's not Anakin. He's not Obi-Wan. He's nowhere near that level. He's not even, like, on Ahsoka's level, honestly. And the fact is, his whole journey is just about how much he's willing to survive and do what's right, because his heart is ultimately in the right place, and he goes through all kinds of trials and tribulations. I would love to make a video just about Zane Carrick and his comic adventures. I have genuinely read so much about him at this point, but it's amazing how much he gets up to in the world. It's almost like kind of like Tag and Bink, which is another group of Star Wars characters, but it's like that such and such and Guildenstern are dead, kind of going into the Star Wars universe and kind of having two people who are observing the whole thing and being like, this is nuts. So yeah, it's a normal guy essentially. It's a very low level Jedi going around the galaxy while there's a civil war going on, like between the Mandalorians. There's a bit of the Sith going on, and the Jedi are trying to figure out what to do. Are they helping the Republic, or are they staying out of it? Like it's all very complicated, but it's the most Star Wars. There's the most war in the Old Republic.
Yeah, he's an underdog.
Yeah, he's an underdog. And listen, he is basically like Jackie Chan in every movie he's ever in, because he's always fighting on the back foot. He's good.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. He has to think more, and he has to rely on friends. He has to rely on people. It's basically he has to get his own D&D group is what has to happen. Like he needs like a rogue, and he needs like an artificer and a barbarian. Like there's all kinds of stuff that he gets into. But I love that about this world, how you can have stories like that, just sort of just gallivanting around from place to place. And you get to see things with the Senate. It's like, yeah, corporations kind of run everything back then. And it feels like money is power. And there's Jedi that are aristocrats, and there are sort of higher level societies going on. And the Mandalorians are sort of looking to conquer and take over places, but they're seeming to be guided by something that's not necessarily Mandalorian. It could be something else. There's a lot of different things in the world of Star Wars that doesn't even have to be about the main stuff. But yeah, that's probably why I like the Old Republic the most. I can let you speak for a second, but yeah, like just talking about like Revan and all that stuff, that's a whole other box of worms, because that is just Star Wars elevated to another level of understanding. But I can hold back for a moment.
No, I want to kind of explore that even more, because that is probably because it's such an interesting time in Star Wars canon, because the Skywalker saga is a story that's already been told, and people keep adding details to it, keep putting in movies in between movies, and putting in shows in between shows, which is great, and I enjoy it. I enjoy all of it. It's fun, but at the same time, it's like we have a beginning. We have an end to that era. It's kind of time to explore something new, which is why the Acolyte was so cool. We got to see something new. We got to see the High Republic. Maybe the stuff that happens after the sequel trilogy will be cool. I don't know. I don't know if it will be. We'll find out when they eventually make it. But yeah, that's such a cool part of the world. And I think because the coolest part of Star Wars to me is the Jedi. It is like you have your scoundrels like Han Solo and stuff, and those were always like fan favorite characters. You have your droids; those are awesome. I always loved the Jedi and stuff, and their relationship with the Sith and everything. But it's Star Wars, which means there's always going to be a war going on, and I think that one thing that Star Wars did that worked for the story they were telling, but kind of limits them a lot, is the rule of two for the Sith, because basically the rule of two says that in this span of thousands of years, or at least 1,000 years, I don't know if that is the exact timeline, you can only have two Sith, which means the stories you can tell is only two Sith.
Yeah.
So like we've never seen on screen more than like 3 Sith at a time. And that was like in the Clone Wars when like Ventress and Darth Maul and Savage were like a thing, but they weren't even full Sith, I guess. I guess we saw the Knights of Ren in the sequel trilogy for a brief moment,
Dude, those aren't even Sith. Those are
they're not even
Power
Sith
Rangers.
either.
They're like
Like,
Power Ranger villains. Like they have no personality. They're nothing.
but if you go back to the Old Republic, it's like, all right, let's see an army of Sith versus like one Jedi or two Jedis or like a group of Jedis. That'd be a cool story that I want to see.
By the way,
I want to see that.
Yeah, and not just an army of Sith, it's a fucking Sith empire. Like, it is multiple races, multiple legions of people, all built together under the idea of the Sith and the dark side. And it's a society. Like, they have currency, they have, like, economics. It's flawed because they also have slavery, and it's legal. And also, they're run by a Sith emperor who has been alive for thousands of years because he learned to harness the Force in such a way that he could absorb life itself. He absorbed all life, all essence of the Force from a planet.
Yep.
Literally. Like I was telling you about this on there's a planet that the fucking Sith Emperor, where he's from, he absorbed all the life from all the people. He literally, like, the sun doesn't shine correctly because he pretty much absorbed the atmosphere too. Like,
if that's not just like a fucking evil wizard, I don't know what. Like that's
literally
Vecna. That's
yes.
That's basically what. Like it's a man. It's a wizard who learned unlocked the power of immortality, and a group of adventurers had to go up against him. This is fantasy.
Yes,
establishing it in Star Wars is fantasy.
Exactly. And we have, like, literally just all of the Old Republic is about, like, if we're talking about Revan, which is like the same era of the Sith Emperor, the whole story is about a fallen knight who then basically is resurrected and rises to the occasion to stop a great evil, but also realizing that he was one of the creators of that evil in the first place. Like, that is something great about Revan. Like,
that is a Star Wars twist if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for people who didn't play a game from 20 years ago, but it's good.
I never played KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. I never played it myself because I didn't have access to video games when I was that age. But I've watched the entire playthrough on YouTube for both KOTOR 1 and 2. And that story is awesome.
It's pretty rock solid.
So
it's pretty
cool.
Right.
And you get to, and in that story, like, there's a canonical ending.
Right.
But you get to make your own choices. You get to be your own guy. You get to see that balance of light and dark. But that story of Revan, spoilers for people who haven't played the game or know the story, you start off as like a dude. You start off as like either like a soldier type or a scoundrel type. I forget. There's like 3 different classes you can pick from.
Yeah, they're all stupid.
You're just like a dude on a ship. It's attacked. All of a sudden, you end up on like the Jedi planet, and they're like, "Hey, you're Force sensitive. You're a little old for us, but we're gonna teach you how to be a Jedi." And then you get to be a Jedi, and all of a sudden, you become a Jedi, and you don't really, like, your memory's foggy. Later down the line, it turns out you keep hearing about this guy named Darth Revan and Darth Malak. They're like the 2 Sith at the time, and they're the big bad guys, and they're gonna fight. It turns out that the Jedi wiped your memory, and you are Darth Revan, who already had been a Jedi, then fell to the dark side, then got his memory wiped and became a Jedi again.
Yeah.
And then you go off and you save the galaxy, and the canonical ending to the story is that you choose the light side again, and that you do end up, like, you don't join Darth Malak, who was like your apprentice / friend. I don't remember which one.
It was both. It was kind of like a Maul Savage Opress scenario.
Right. We're like they're equals, but one of them's in charge. Yeah. Like you were the Sith master that started all this shit, and then you fix everything. And then you kind of go down that, like, that is an epic. That is epic as in like the storytelling version of it. Not like, oh, that's epic, bro. Like, no, that is an epic. That is like Odysseus. Coming back to whatever he came from, I forget. It's been a while since I've brushed up on my Greek mythology. It is, you know, you are Achilles. You are a Greek hero. Lost his memory, came back and saved the galaxy. It's just on a
Yes.
bigger scale because you have starships.
Right. And also Ithaca. Odysseus was from Ithaca.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
That's not me, that's Google. But yeah, that's what yeah, Revan is amazing because he is literally every side of the spectrum. He's been to every corner and then sort of finds balance. And he kind of had some rough intentions. A war starts. He decides the Jedi need to interfere with the war and actually do something. Council's like, no. So he takes a couple of people, fights off the Mandalorians, starts wearing a Mandalorian face mask to scare the fuck out of other Mandalorians and just be like, it just starts going around and literally just embarrasses them to the point that they all have to separate. Then goes into the far reaches of space, comes back a Sith Lord, decides he's going to destroy and take over the Republic. Then, yeah, literally almost dies, gets recovered by Jedi, gets brainwashed and mind melded to think that he's some random guy, and then goes through the journey again. He retraces all of his steps, and at the end of the day, chooses the right thing and falls in love with another Jedi, and
Right. I
learns
didn't even mention that in the game you get to build a party as well, another D&D party. But yeah, one of them is like your. There are a couple love interests, but the canonical one is like Bestiala, who is just like a just yellow lightsaber with like Darth Maul lightsaber, which is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, and she's great, but you're able to bond over that, and you realize with Revan, it's not attachment that destroys a person, it's attachment that can save a person. Where it's again kind of tying into what I like about Star Wars, where it's like I feel like there are some flaws in the Jedi that I love the Jedi, I love everything about them, but it's the fact that they don't necessarily understand that you shouldn't block out the emotions, you should understand them. You should know your emotions and be able to control them, which is where Revan realizes he loves Bastila and actually uses that love when she's corrupted to the dark side to bring her back to the light.
It's interesting because you look at like the Jedi and Sith, and the one thing they agree on is like to kind of block out love. Like neither of them really believe in love. Like the Sith believe in passion and all that stuff, but they don't necessarily believe in like that true connection to another person. And the Jedi, some of them are like, yeah, love, but a lot of them are like, no, you gotta be unfeeling. And that is like the flaw in both of them is the Jedi are scared of love, and the Sith view love as weakness. So both of them kind of shut that out of their lives, and you know, and it's just a metaphor for who we are in the real world. To bring it back for just a second, because we're trying to distance ourselves from the real world right now. But like to bring it back just for a second, like love is what brings us together. There's plenty of songs about it. You've heard music.
Yeah,
like,
all you need is love.
Right. And I don't know, seeing that story told in so many different ways in this one genre universe, like in the Star Wars genre, it is told in like 7 different ways just by itself, and that's so interesting. And through the Force and all that stuff. Even though it's a Star Wars is made for children. Star Wars is made for children. Yeah, there's some more mature Star Wars now because all those children have grown up. But yeah, I mean, originally it's to look at little lightsabers and smile and go, they fight. But like, yeah, it's beautiful. And Revan is a great example of that. And seeing that is crazy.
Yeah, but no, the Old Republic is super cool. And then there's the video games, you know, like obviously everyone's like Force Unleashed, Star Killer is fucking Giga Chad. He's the strongest and he's shoots lightning. By the way, played by the amazing Sam Witwer. I do love Star Killer, but I'm also like, yeah, like it's good, but it's best in a video game.
And it's also it kind of plays into the thing that I was kind of talking about earlier, where it's like everyone always like, everyone was always like, oh, Anakin Skywalker's the coolest, he's the most like badass. I've never liked a character because they're the most badass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why everyone likes him, because he's OP. If you look at the video games, he is so overpowered.
Yes, he's Star Wars Kratos.
Like he is so. But I mean, Sam Witwer's a great actor, and it's a cool character. They did a cool thing with it. But yeah, I've recently started playing like the Jedi games with Cal Kestis. Those are super fun too. Star Wars Outlaws comes out soon. I think it looks fun. Again, there's that Star Wars fan thing where there are already people hating on it, which is just exhausting. But yeah, there's so much to love about it, and there's so many different ways to enjoy it, that I think is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, video games are such a great aspect. I've been trying to go into the old ones. Like I played Battlefront again and
Yeah.
Republic Commando, which I really enjoyed. I like Republic Commando a lot. Bounty Hunter, where you play Jango Fett. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
right,
Star Wars has all kinds of opportunities. There is something for everybody, which means when it's weird when people gatekeep. It's like Star Wars is this, Star Wars is that. It's like no, it's so many things you can't even put it in a box.
Right, and there are not a lot of people that have seen all of Star Wars. I haven't seen all of it yet. I plan to. And even those people, I haven't read everything. Like there are very few people that are like have done all Star Wars. Whenever I meet someone who's like, oh, I've never watched Star Wars, like it's just a lot of times those people are like, yeah, it's because the community is toxic around it, or they just never got around to it because there's so much. I always tell those people, I'm like, here's the deal. Star Wars does not have to be your thing. I believe that everyone should watch the original trilogy. If you don't want to watch the prequels or anything else, that's fine with me. I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, you got to watch it. I think you got to watch the original trilogy just so that you understand the impact that Star Wars has had on our culture as a whole. Like
Yeah.
Western culture, Star Wars is everywhere. You can't deny that. Like if you're within Western culture at all, like if you're on the internet at all, obviously there's like some, cultures that are less attached to the internet and technology and things like that, But like if you know what Star Wars is. In my opinion, it's your duty to educate yourself. If you're someone who watches movies at all, watch the original trilogy. If you like it, keep watching, enjoy it, become a fan, join us. Love to have more Star Wars fans in the world, even though we already have a lot of bad ones. But if you don't, great. You can now go to a party and say, I've seen Star Wars, and people won't yell at you. Because if you used to be one of those people, it's like, well, I've never watched it, and you've had 7 people yell at you, well, it's kind of your own fault at this point.
Yeah, get fucked. No.
Yeah, bitch.
Yeah.
Watch it. We'll Clockwork Orange you to the screen.
No, don't say that, you fucking psycho. Jesus Christ.
I know nothing else about Clockwork Orange other than the fact that they put someone in front of a TV screen with their eyes held open. That's the only thing I know about Clockwork Orange at all.
It's about really fucked up stuff. Don't worry about it. We never have to watch it. But yeah, honestly, well, I think we're kind of nearing the end. We have all kinds of shit. I feel like we could have plenty of conversations about Star Wars.
We've talked before just ourselves for like 4 hours straight about Star Wars. We could keep talking, but this is probably enough for you guys to watch if you ever do.
Right. But yeah, I guess just to kind of close things out, what would you say is like your favorite era in Star Wars? And it can be anything from like Legends or any of the main continuity now. What's like your favorite era?
I
and
love
on top of that, favorite and least favorite, I'll ask.
I think I got 2 favorites, which is like the Old Republic and the original trilogy. Those 2, I think, are my favorites. It's hard to pick one because I like them for different reasons. We've talked about both of those reasons previously in this video. But I like both of those pretty equally. And then least favorite. until it proves me wrong, the sequel trilogy, like until it gets better. Before, I probably would have said like the Clone Wars era is fun and everything, but the Clone Wars, like I never loved all the political stuff. The political stuff kind of bores me personally. There's a lot of that in that era.
Okay.
All the Senate and stuff. That's just a personal preference. Not that it's bad or anything, and I can still watch it and enjoy it. But that kind of bores me. But until the sequel era does something better, which they could.
Yeah,
But
they very well could. We'll see. But I noticed you didn't say the High Republic. You were actually reading some of those comics for a little bit.
Yeah, I started reading the first book, Light of the Jedi. I haven't picked it up in a second. It's just the High Republic is an era of, as definition, like the High Republic is everything's at peace. It's Star Wars with no war, or at least not yet, from how far I've gotten. Like the conflict right now that I'm reading is a rescue mission. There's no one to fight, which is great. It's great. Like if I could live in a Star Wars era, that would be an awesome era to live in. I'm not gonna die.
Nobody's dead.
Like it's very easy to die in the Star Wars universe. Like if one thing goes wrong with your ship, you're dead.
Oh yeah.
Like, and they explain that that is a part of the book. But it's just like the Sith haven't been seen for a while. The people of the time barely even know what the Sith are. You don't get to see that conflict at all. There's a shit ton of Jedi, which is cool, and I love that. But I don't know, all the conflicts are just kind of mundane. Maybe there's a skirmish here and there. Again, have not read very far into the books. Maybe it gets more intense later, but there's just not much story going on. And I think I honestly think like Yord is right now is my third favorite Star Wars character of all time.
Huh.
I love Yord. I think it goes Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yord. Don't ask me why. I just love him. And he's from the High Republic era. But he also, spoilers, dies.
Neck snap. First one in Star Wars history.
I might have cried a little bit. But yeah, it's not an interesting era from what I've experienced of it yet. The Acolyte did a great job, but I feel like the Acolyte is them transitioning out of the High Republic. And it's them saying the High Republic is ending, and now we're moving into the Republic that we know from the prequels. It's only 100 years before the prequels. So it's kind of that transition point. So it's kind of like, which is I think what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
But the era itself is
very fair. Very fair. I think you already know.
The aesthetic is my favorite. I think sorry to interrupt. The High Republic aesthetic is my favorite. I love the look of the High Republic. But anyway.
Fair enough. Well, I think you know what mine are. Mine are the prequel trilogy and the Old Republic, because it's that perfect Shakespearean. And you want to talk about robes? Ugh, magnificent robes in the Old Republic. Just I've learned there's a second thing I love. It's little freaks and beautiful robes. Just great fashion in the Old Republic, because I feel like they even went further in to kind of like the otherworldly designs and sort of that chic that they're used to, where it's everything's sort of sleek and sort of shiny during this period that I respond to a lot. But again, it's the most war that's ever going on is the Old Republic. There is so many different moving parts at all times. And something that you don't like, but I really respond to, is the politics. There are so many different types of politics going on in the Old Republic and the prequels. And if you can stay awake long enough in the prequels, you will see there are some very fun politics going on.
And I will clarify, it's not like I think having a Senate is interesting. I think having like different, having a Sith emperor and having the different things, I think that's all interesting. But when I have to watch it for a while or read about it for a while, it's just like regular day politics. I'm like, all right, are we going to talk about policies for 20 minutes? Cool. That's not fun. But like seeing all the different interactions, I think is cool.
Right.
I do think that is awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe we can talk more about the Old Republic later on, or there's so many different things in Star Wars that we could be talking about. But for today,
Well,
this was fun. This
this is
was
great.
yeah, just getting to talk, shoot the shit. But yeah, everybody, today was chaotic crossover. Just a big yap sesh.
Before you close it, you didn't say what your least favorite era was.
My least favorite. Right now, all things considered, the Empire era between Revenge of the Sith and basically the New Hope era. I feel like second trilogy is kind of easy to say, the sequels trilogy, but I just feel like they're really pushing it. They're trying to make it happen, and I
Are you
don't
talking
know if
about
I
like
love it.
between 3 and 4?
Yes, I'm
That
not
is
loving.
fair. Like
I'm
4,
not
5, and
loving.
6, you're fine with. It's just between those two, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
I agree.
There's
I
two
agree.
things. There's two things I really respond to from that era, and it's the Force Unleashed video game because I grew up on it, so nostalgia, and Andor. Those are the two things that I respond to because I'm like, okay, at least they're doing something here.
Right.
Um,
And the two of us, we love Jedi, and there's no Jedi that
yeah,
are. You get to see Darth Vader do a little bit of stuff.
yeah. The best thing in that era is just Vader. Oh, he's scary. Oh, he's so bad.
Oh, he's so bad. Oh, he's gonna kill another guy. Oh, he killed him.
Oh,
Oh, he killed him with his hand. Oh, he killed him with his blade. Oh, he lit his lightsaber and walked down a hallway. And technically, if you look at that scene, there's actually light coming from behind Vader because when they just lit him by the lightsaber, you didn't actually see Vader. Weird lighting trick.
yeah. But yeah, that's my least favorite. If people are gonna come at me in the comments for that because you like Rebels, go suck an egg.
I think I will when I watch Rebels. I think I will love Rebels, but that's
Oh,
a whole
it's good. It's good. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I'm not that interested in it. Like, I don't even acknowledge the sequel trilogy when I think about it. But I know
That's
so
fair.
much about the between period between 3 and 4.
Yeah, I know too much about that era. Hot take though is that God, people are gonna kill me. What's the fucking movie where everyone dies that everyone
Rogue
loves?
One.
Rogue One is fine. It's my
It's
hot take.
okay.
It's fine. Everyone was like, "This is the best thing Star Wars has done in so many years." I'm like, "It's fine. It's
It's
yeah."
good. It's a good movie. It's a solid movie. I'll give it that.
I don't know. I came in and I was like, I know everyone's gonna die, so I'm not gonna be emotionally invested in any of these characters because they're all dead.
See, I didn't know that they were all gonna die. So that
I
was my thing.
I knew they.
But yeah, it's still good. I would take it over the sequel trilogy. Movie
Yeah,
wise. Movie wise, I would.
movie wise,
Um,
yes.
okay. But anyway, everybody, take two. That was our episode of Chaotic Crossover.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Chaotic
Yeah, the big
crossover.
yap
Boom,
sesh.
bing, boom.
Yeah. And we will see you next time. See ya.
Probably the same shirts.
Probably.